fuck? Oh, his teeth are so white! What the fuck? What the hell? There's so much shit in the way! There's gotta be something. Alright, Lucille it is. Mark, come on, man, come on! Mark, please stop shuffling towards me. Mark, I really don't want to do this. Marky, please don't make me do this. Mark!
Well, isn't this a surprise? I was folding my laundry, my brother's a zombie, now Mark's a zombie now, I shot him in the fucking face, so what do we do now? Review a game, obviously, so Capcom, thanks for the parting gift, Jesus Christ. Oh, okay. Alright, gotta remain calm. I have a job to do, so let's see it through. Alright, even though things are grim, I do want to thank Capcom for sponsoring today's video. They supplied me with a code, and I'm very thankful for that, but I'm glad I got a physical copy anyway, because, well, come on, it's Resident Evil 2. I'll be sure to remind you of this again at the end of the video, but if you're at all interested in the game, you can find a link in the description below to help get you started. I wanted to do a Resident Evil marathon later this year. You folks have been asking for one for so long, I wanted to finally give it some love. A franchise like this that's been trucking along for over 20 years, that's something to celebrate, and I'd love to spend some time with it. Yes, that's not happening now with an apocalypse going on outside. Is it because I referred to Nizar as a female? Am I getting smited here? Whatever, you know what? Alright, we're jumping ahead here. Resident Evil 2 just got a brand spanking new remake available on PS4, Xbox One, and PC, so let's go out with a bang before I have to bang something else. Phrasing. No! There's no time for an intro. I just shot my brother in the fucking face. What the hell's the matter with you? In 1996, the world was introduced to Resident Evil for the PlayStation 1, a title that helped define the survival horror genre with its claustrophobic design, pre-rendered background, stiff controls, and live-action Albert Wesker. Its success led to the birth of one of Capcom's premier properties next to Street Fighter, Mega Man, as well as a couple of others. In 2002, a remake of the first game was released from the Nintendo GameCube and later given an HD remaster in later generations. This recreation, referred to fans as Resident Evil Remake, once again set the standard of what folks expected in a survival horror escapade. But the lingering thought for years was, okay, they remade the first game, when were we going to do the same for the second one? Resident Evil 2, in the eyes of many, was considered the pinnacle of the classic Resident Evil formula before Resident Evil 4 came and changed the entire ballgame in 2005. I mean, even I followed the game. I had a couple of friends in middle school who were crazy about it, and I was somewhat curious, seeing that I was already sort of familiar with the series since its inception. But I was too much of a chicken shit to play it myself. One time I even caught that April issue from EGM2 that said you could unlock Akuma from Street Fighter if you fulfilled some absurd conditions, and if that were true, then maybe back then I would have considered picking the game up, alas it wasn't, and I wouldn't finally pick up the series until Resident Evil 4 in 2005. 5. But god, I ended up loving this game so much that it pretty much acted as my gateway to the rest of the series up until that point. I went and played every game before, and I was finally getting my Resident Evil on, and out of all of them, I ended up enjoying Resident Evil 2 the most. If I somehow make it out of this alive, I'll save my full thoughts and experiences for when I get to this game for the marathon, but knowing that this game was next up in the remake train had me excited like you wouldn't believe. Sure, we can go ahead and say that Resident Evil Darkside Chronicles technically did it first, but that was a rail shooter not unlike House of the Dead. This was a full-blown, from the ground up, recreation complete with everything that defined what a classic Resident Evil was known for. Claire Redfield, a girl trying to locate the whereabouts of her brother Chris Redfield from the first game, and Leon S. Kennedy, a newly recruited police officer of the Raccoon City Police Department who's about to have the most interesting first day on the job in the history of mankind. Their travels take them to Raccoon City, currently facing an undead epidemic thanks to a viral outbreak. Though it's initially unclear on how it all went down, and if you played the first game in any capacity, you soon learn that it was the work of the Umbrella Corporation, a pharmaceutical company that is so absurdly evil that it's borderline comical. Okay, well, I should hesitate to call it comically evil because in the remake, the situation is played relatively straight. There's a couple glimmers of cheese here, the kind you might remember from the original, but events here are taken very seriously and there's little guffaws to be had here, intentionally or otherwise. It's a more mature version of Resident Evil 2 with the darkest elements previously being ramped up significantly. To some, this may be a little overdone. At some points, it's downright depressing, and I think it hits you as soon as the game starts. Just look at those late 90s gas prices, man! What the fuck happened in the last 20 years? But dour story or not, I think it helps accentuate that dread, the horror, the uncertainty, everything that the first remake had and then some. Both Claire and Leon explore the Raccoon City Police Department, a gigantic sewer underneath the city, and finally a secret laboratory, all while dealing with whatever's thrown into their pathway, whether it's a bioorganic weapon or an experiment gone awry. Almost everything happens in real time too, so like it or not, when it's time to act, you're just thrown into it, adding to the intense atmosphere. If you never played Resident Evil 2 before, you don't know what to expect around the corner, and even if you have played the original, things aren't quite the same as previously, and this game takes full advantage of that. To further add to the scares, we have what I think is some of the best graphics and presentation in the series. Starting with Resident Evil 7 a couple of years back, Capcom started using their own proprietary RE engine capable of delivering some truly grotesque and photorealistic gore. There's nothing that makes you more uncomfortable and squeamish than excruciating detail, and this version of Resident Evil 2 has it in spades. It'll feel good to get those headshots on those oncoming zombies, but then you'll be like, ew. Oh man, but speaking of zombies, they're so much more resilient in this game. Except this one, even in death, a fat zombie wants snacks. I feel you, man. Zombies were already sort of bullet sponges before because, well, they're dead. They can't feel pain. But that's like 2 times worse here. If you aim for the head, they go down, but give it some time and they'll just get back up. I had a zombie that was on the floor for like 3 minutes thinking it was down for good, but no, the son of a bitch just got back up like it just took a power nap. These things just won't stay down. Isn't that right, Mark? Oh shit! I ended up kneecapping most of them. It slowed them down significantly. Hey, if they won't stay down, I might as well handicap them. And there's only so much ammo to go around. Oh yeah, this is an old school Resident Evil where health pickups and ammunition are far more scarce. You can stockpile a decent amount of reserves if you're good at avoiding attacks and know when to run away, but in no time you'll get those encounters in narrow hallways and such that'll force your hand and it'll drain your resources fast. Areas can seem like twisty mazes of hell, but the map system in this game is fantastic. It lets you know what areas you completely combed over, and it marks items and lock mechanisms that you managed to spot to later remind you of their location. It's next to impossible to lose your way. If you got a knack for backtracking as soon as you find a solution to whatever your current predicament is, you can pick up inventory expansions, a healthy amount of ammo, and get those extra powerful goodies for future use to make the next area ahead slightly less cumbersome, but I stress slightly less cumbersome because like I said, the game is rather good at making you expend resources. The dogs in Leon's scenario are the worst. They're not terribly hard to take down, but they throw so many at you. Way more than what the original did, but nothing is more satisfying than taking them down in midair. What the fuck? Yeah! The remake brings the over-the-shoulder camera from Resident Evil 4 into the picture, along with a modernized control scheme you should be familiar with if you played over-the-shoulder shooters in the past 10 years. Tank controls are a thing of the past, and can be fairly easy to maneuver around things should you want to avoid confrontations in open areas, but this does not mean the game is a walk in the park. Your controls are fine-tuned, but most areas are still as stifling as ever. Good luck trying to run past 3 zombies coming at you at once, it's next to impossible. And this isn't even including all those genetic experiments lurking about. It doesn't take much to kill you, and unlike other games, you don't have much in defensive options like roundhouse kicks or suplexes. Assessing the environment is crucial because against something like lickers, you likely won't survive more than 2 claw swipes. You can equip yourself with combat knives, flashbangs, and hand grenades for added power, and in the thick of it, you can use these to shrug off a grab and get yourself out of trouble temporarily. But like most ammo here, there's only so much of it. And you want to save as much as you can for boss fights. These were always hit and miss in the original games because, well, simply put, the tank controls made them remarkably clumsy. The modern controls give you more to work with, but that also means these guys are much more aggressive and require more strategy than just shooting it with explosives until it dies. That still works to some capacity here, but you actually have to aim and make sure your shots hit the right places. Okay, I'm stressing out. I gotta find something to distract me. You know, they say a good puzzle is great for keeping the mind occupied, and this game brings plenty to the table. Some are brought back from the original, while several are new to the scene. Nothing terribly complicated, but a few did make me slap my forehead when I finally found the solution to them, and those are the worst for me because I feel like such a tool. Though Claire and Leon go through many of the same areas, they have different stories since the two are separated early on. They also have their own unique instance with their side character. With Claire, you temporarily control the young Sherry Birkin with a terrifying game of hide and seek at one point, while Leon gets Ada Wong, who can actually defend herself, but spends more time exploding fans with her magical hacking gun. Like in the original, if you finish the game with one character, you can choose to play as the second character with a slightly altered scenario. It could mean different solutions to puzzles, enemies being in different locations, to encountering the likes of Mr. X far earlier than intended. Jesus Christ, let's talk about this asshole in his $9,000 trench coat. He was an obstacle that was added in a character's second scenario in the original. While intimidating in his own way then, he was rather easy to manipulate and only appeared in set locations. This time, not only does he show up in both scenarios now, but he never stops hunting you down. Play this game with headphones on, you can hear his booming footsteps throughout the whole police station. A good indicator on how close he is to you, but terrifying all the same. Now more than ever, I'm hesitant on shooting things, not just because I want to reserve ammo, but because this jerk might hear the gunfire and boom, my cover's blown. The sequence where you have to move the shelves in the library to proceed. Good lord, I not only have about 4 zombies to run circles around, but I got this motherfucker on top of that, and getting him off my ass means running through like 4 different hallways before he gives up chase, eating up time, and maybe bullets because I can run into a zombie I didn't see before. When you hear footsteps, your ass better slow it down, which, you know, is an amazing use of audio to instill fear. I legitimately tensed up when I heard him nearby. I mean, I don't think he's terribly hard to shake off, but those moments when you get careless, those were good scares. When Mr. X only scratches the surface in the audio department, the remake puts far more emphasis on sound altogether. It's not just zombie moans and footsteps, but you can hear things coming through windows. A loud crash accompanies a zombie breaking through a door when they're on your trail. And what's worse is that this is all usually happening in the dark. Environments are not as brightly lit in this iteration of the game. Your flashlight is a good source of visibility, but it's not all encompassing. You still have plenty of blind spots. I already mentioned the ferocity of some of these creatures, but you know, it could be anything lurking behind the corner, so it's good to keep an eye and ear out always. But if you want a little extra 90s flavor in your horror, and if you're feeling more nostalgic than you already are, you can spend $3 to get the original soundtrack to accompany your next playthrough. And I'm happy to say, even with the higher quality graphics and audio, it still manages to fit in perfectly. Resident Evil 2 had one of my favorite soundtracks in the franchise, and I'm happy I'm able to bring it with me. Save rooms never felt so relaxing. Other DLC includes a handful of additional costumes. You got this sheriff outfit for Leon, noir-styled outfits for both characters, which I really dig on Claire, but she also gets some military garbs, and an Elsa Walker outfit, a shout out to the original protagonist planned during Resident Evil 2's development. If you purchase the deluxe edition of the game, all these costumes are available from the start, but they're also available as DLC you can purchase from the store. By completing the game, you can also unlock the character's retro costumes, giving Claire her old school biker outfit, and Leon his original RPD uniform, which now more than ever looks like a cosplay. I also like how he still gets his bandages placed outside of his uniform after taking a bullet. I love that attention to detail. Completing the game with both characters also unlocks the 4th Survivor minigame, where you play as this dude named Hunk that needs to get to his extraction point utilizing limited ammo and health supplies, and they throw everything in the kitchen sink at this poor asshole. But consider yourself a master if you can clear this in a short amount of time. Not me though, I got as far as the 2nd floor of the police station before the lickers licked my ass. Other than that, I don't know what else to say. If I weren't in such a dire situation, I'd gladly spend more time on it. Maybe a revisit during the marathon later this year because there's some more DLC on the way that includes additional story elements, but I can say this now. This is an awesome recreation of one of my favorite games in the survival horror genre. Modern gamers have something to look forward to in an intense, horror-filled gore fest filled with plenty of reasons to keep it coming back, while longtime fans have a fantastic recreation of the game that put Resident Evil on the map. It's been a long time coming, but it's finally here, and I'm happy to say it doesn't disappoint. I guess I should thank Capcom for sending me a copy of the game before I met my demise. Again, if you're interested in learning more about the game, maybe you want to purchase it for yourself, you can find a link in the description below to get you started. It's available in Standard Edition, Deluxe Edition with all the DLC I mentioned included, and there's also a Collector's Edition for those diehard Resident Evil fans that comes with a nifty statue of Leon, an art book, the soundtrack, a poster, as well as the Deluxe Edition of the game. And in case I don't make it out of here alive, can one of you guys tell Ted? Oh shit!
Oh, guys, come on! Come on, don't you recognize me? Come on! Stop! Please stop! No! No! No!
Thank you, Mark. Oh, that was right in my elbow. Action. Fuck. Yeah, fuck you. You piece of shit. I'm getting the hell out of here. Action.
Fuck.
Keep that going. Keep going. Keep
My
going.
nuts.
Oh no, he nutted.
Most careful zombie I ever saw in my entire life.
Because you're holding on to the rail.
Hey. Safety first.
Safety first. Safety first.
He has a deer shirt on.
He doesn't want to die a second time. Tim Allen crumb.
Can we just have a moment of just...
Out of my ass.
3, 2, 1, action. 3, 2, 1, action. so terrifying. Stop! Please stop! No! 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 That's so nice.
It's a lie. It's a lie.